to call the Baldwin City Council meeting for January 13th to order, please. If you will rise and join me with our invocation and pledge. Father God, thank you for keeping us safe through the inclement weather that we had this weekend. Thank you for our first responders, for our police, our fire, and especially our public works personnel. Please keep them safe in all they do. Bless our citizens. May everybody travel safely this evening to and from our meeting and be with us tonight as we make decisions. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, as we do have a full council this evening, as you can hear, Mr. Councilman Venter, Councilwoman Venter are both with us on the phone. Councilman Venter, you want to say hello? Can you hear us?
Good evening, everybody.
Thank you. This has become my custom to let the folks who are on Facebook Live know who is with us. We do have a full council. We have CAO Woodmaster, we have legal counsel Jack Samuels, and we have our city clerk Erin Gavicle. The media is here, and we do have a couple of friends in the gallery. Thank you everybody for being here this evening. First item on the agenda, I need a motion to amend the agenda, please. Something got left off that we talked about, the Habersham Jail Agreement. Can I have a motion to amend the agenda with the addition of old business number 4, consideration approval of the Habersham County Jail Agreement? I have a motion from Councilwoman Lehman. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Councilwoman Davis. All those in favor?
Aye.
Councilman Venter?
Yes. Sorry.
Motion carries unanimously. Okay, we've added old business. What did you say? I can't hear. Okay. All right, we've added old business number 4 to the agenda. Next item is our consent agenda, approval of minutes, council meeting 12/19/2024 and work session 1/7/2025. Did everybody have an opportunity to review the minutes? Any comments, questions, concerns?
Not here.
All those in favor of accepting the consent agenda as presented? No, I'm sorry. I need a motion too. I'll get in the groove. I need coffee. All right, I'll take the motion from Councilwoman Venter.
Yes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Councilman Eric Keith. All those in favor?
Aye.
So, thank you. Motion carries unanimously. There being no public comments. If any Baldwin resident has business with the council, please come forward, state your name and address. Okay, there being nobody coming forward, we have no public hearings or reports. We'll move on to old business. First item of old business, consideration approval, the second reading of the Aguilar zoning change ordinance number 2024-12156Z. Ms. Woodmaster?
Good evening.
Good evening.
All right. At our work session, we discussed and had a public hearing for the Aguilar zoning special use permit request. This is the property almost at the corner of King Street going toward Shore Street. Sorry, yes. We were talking about that one earlier today. On Shore Street, that was what seems to be miszoned at some point in time as highway commercial, or neighbor commercial, excuse me. And we're requesting that zoning change be changed to residential, single family 2. which is in line with every other property on that strip. It's all homes that are right there except for that last property to the south of it. That is Get Real Ministries, I believe. That is a ministry. Used to be a vet years ago. So that one is zoned, but it is zoned that way due to Highway 441 being on the corner piece of it. So we are requesting, they came to us for a building permit, and we notified them that it was a non-conforming use of the property because of how it was zoned. So we're requesting, this came at our request to rezone it to R2.
And this has come before us, December, was it last month?
Yeah.
Last month. So this is, yeah, so this is our second reading. Are there any comments, questions, concerns?
Seems pretty straightforward.
Either councilperson, Venter, any concerns?
Not a concern at all.
Excuse me, Mayor, can we move my phone closer to your position? Because I can't hear half of it.
Yes. Okay, so I have you, Councilman Venter, I have you right in front of me, right in front of the mic. Okay? Is that better? Okay. Okay. You ready to vote on this?
Yes.
Okay. I'll read the bolded part. In ordinance number 2024-12156Z, an ordinance amending the zoning map of the city of Baldwin, Georgia, by zoning all those tracts or parcels of land owned by Pedro Aguilar Trejo in being 0.71 acres, more or less, being tax map parcel 091D013, and lying and being in land lot 185 of the 10th Land District of Habersham County, Georgia, and being more particularly described on a deed or plat, which is attached hereto, and which is incorporated by reference into this ordinance from Neighborhood Commercial District, NC, to Residential Single Family District, R2, without conditions, repealing conflicting ordinances to provide for severability, to provide for an effective date, and for other purposes. Can I have a motion to approve the zoning change?
So moved.
I have a motion from Councilwoman Venter. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Councilwoman Davis. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Second item under old business is consideration approval of GERMA First Responder PTSD resolution number 2025-01158R. Ms. Woodmaster.
Yes, so we also discussed this at our work session. This is a requirement as a result of House Bill 451, also known as the Ashley Wilson Act, to provide for public entities to provide this premium for our first responders who have been diagnosed with PTSD as of the effective date of the House Bill taking effect July 1st of 2024. We are required to do this. There's two parts to it. There is the lump sum payment for anyone who has been diagnosed with PTSD, and then there is for long-term disability. For long-term, 60% of their salary is paid for a fixed amount of time. The requirement, this was brought before us by GERMA. We can pursue our own policy. They've built this policy and have negotiated it with MetLife. And there's 3 different tiers of coverage. The minimum requirement is that $3,000 lump sum, but the council has the ability to go up to $15,000 on that lump sum payment. And as we discussed in our work session last week, that has already been built into this year's budget. There is a requirement with GERMA, because they're establishing a new fund that they haven't had before called Fund C, that we sign a resolution allowing us to enter into that fund agreement, allowing our funds to go into that fund agreement with GERMA and adopting that policy. Any questions?
And it seems like we had to make a decision at what level we
Yes.
wanted part 1.
That's correct.
Okay. There was conversation last week about going with the $15,000 level. How are you feeling about that?
Well, I did notice when I was reading the documents that these premiums are an estimate, and that after 6 months, or I think it was based on the census, and that they may not be the actual.
This is the rate for this first half of the cycle. It's billed biannually, so every 6 months they're gonna request a new census to determine how many people are on our list. But this is the rate for this coming year. It just depends on how many of our staff members are added in the second half, or reduced, either way. Yeah, and then every year it's reevaluated.
I think the confusion was on the word census, and it's not our population census. But
Oh,
the
yes,
census, the
yes.
number of employees that we have.
That's correct.
So are we comfortable going with the 15,000? And you want us to vote on these separately?
Please.
Yeah, okay. Councilman Benter, Councilwoman Benter, how do we feel about going with the $15,000 cap?
Yes.
That's already in the.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, thank you. All right, so the first, we have to vote on the two different parts. So can I have a motion to approve the Gurma First Responder PTSD participation agreement and to authorize Chief Chief Administrative Officer to execute the agreement as presented, and this is where we say at the $15,000 rate. Okay, not rate, but level. All right.
So moved.
I had a motion from Martin first, Alice.
Okay.
I have a motion from Councilman Venter. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Councilman Keith. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And then the second part of this is, can I have a motion to approve the Gurma First Responder PTSD resolution number 2025-01158R as presented.
I'll make that one.
I have a motion from Councilman Keith. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Councilwoman Davis. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. I know this is an unfunded mandate, but this is so important to our first responders. Thank you, Council, for reading that through.
Absolutely.
Just, can I take a point here just for a moment? CAO Woodmaster and I have talked about, I know she has talked about this with other state officials. Our Public Works Department functions like a first responder in so many ways. And this does not cover public works. If you read this, the documents attached to this, it clearly outlines who is a first responder, and it doesn't cover public works. Since we've been here, we have talked about encouraging stakeholders to include public works folks. I don't know how to have this conversation other than publicly. And to talk about the critical work that our public works folks do for us, whether it's a scene of an accident or a disaster in the city. How do we address this at the state level?
I think we keep advocating for it, talking with our elected officials, and partnering with our other municipalities and the counties around us to campaign for that.
So, maybe that's something that we can think about at retreat or something, maybe write an open letter to the governor, I don't know, maybe just start putting our collective weight behind this, because we
Some
have.
folks at GMA might be helpful with that.
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah, we've got a conference coming up, maybe I can knock on some doors
Bend an ear.
down in the ground.
Bend an ear.
Bend in here, absolutely. Not averse to talking to anybody. Okay, item number 4 that we just added to the agenda.
Item number 3.
Pardon?
Item number 3.
3. Don't want to skip our fire votes. All right, item number 3, consideration approval of the fire department training facility agreements. Again, we looked at these last week. There were some questions about editorial notes. Were those cleaned up?
Yes.
Okay.
they have been addressed, and we've also added, language at, is it on the bottom?
It's the middle
The-
paragraph.
Yeah, the end of that middle
Yeah,
paragraph.
the middle paragraph, it says a waiver of liability will be provided to all personnel using the facility prior to its use. And then we've added the language, that further acknowledges the participant, that says the Banks County recognizes and accepts the inherent risk present in first responder training and therefore waives any and all liability for injury, casualty, or loss sustained in the performance of this intergovernmental agreement. Banks County will indemnify, defend, and hold harmless the city of Baldwin, its officers, agents, and employees for any claims and losses sustained by any person or entity who may be injured or damaged in the performance of this agreement to the maximum extent provided by the law. So it's been added in there, so it's clear, clear cut, there's no
And
changes.
it's on all four of these.
That's on all four, that's
Does
correct.
that cover your concerns that you have? Okay, can I have a motion to do something else? Aaron, I just want another color check, it's fine. Can I have a motion to approve the Habersham County Jail agreements as?
Nope, fire department.
No,
Fire department.
wrong, I wanna get to the jail. Can I have a motion to approve the fire department training facility agreements as presented?
So moved.
I have a motion from Councilwoman Lehman, do I have a second?
Second.
So moved.
I have a second from Councilman Keaton.
Everyone is on board.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay. Yay, now we get to number 4. All right, number 4, of old business, consideration approval of the Habersham County Jail Agreement. Everybody had an opportunity to look at this week. Yes, any questions for Ms. Woodmaster? Can I have a motion to, go ahead, Councilman Gunter.
I was just going to say, I believe all my questions were answered last week.
Excellent, thank you. Can I have a motion to approve the Habersham County Jail Agreement as presented?
So moved.
I have a motion from Councilwoman Davis, do I have a second? I have a second from Councilman Venter, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, that concludes old business. For new business, consideration approval of first reading of the Morris Zavala special use permit ordinance number 2025-1159Z.
This is the special use permit that I referred to earlier.
There we go.
They came before us, before city council and requested, to have a special use permit to allow for a manufactured home to replace, the mobile home that is currently there. This was condemned a little over a year ago by our fire department. They're aware of that, they intend to tear that down. Already have. Tear it down. I know they took down everything down.
Correct.
Yes. And, the request now coming before council is for a special use permit because that land, that property stayed vacant for over a year. It is a non-conforming use, the way that it's presently zoned and what is on the land as it stands, or as it stood. And with that, in order for a manufactured home to be placed on that property, they have to come to the city council to request a special use permit. That's why the request is before you today. They are requesting, for a special use permit, they're hoping to get, a manufactured home that is, between the year 2000 and 2002. And, as we were going through this, Aaron, our city clerk, did bring up a concern that the way that we write our ordinances, and the way that we document these, in perpetuity, require a plat book, deed, a plat book page number, and book number, and this one did not have it. And so we have done as much research as we can. Even asked Alice if she could assist us to try to find this. Aaron has reached out to Deeds and Records to see what they have. But if you're looking at page 47 of your packet, you'll see on the warranty deed that there is an Exhibit A, and that this is what they're deeding over to the current owners of the property. And on page 48, you'll see that the plat book and page number are blank. They are blank. There is no plat of the property other than the original plat of there was 4 parcels that existed, they were parceled, or parcelized by Minnie Payne and her estate. And so you can see that it's on a piece of a plat, but it's not the plat for this property. However, this was sold. This traded hands from Tyler and Ivester to Mr. Zavala and Miss Mora. So, the way that our ordinance is written, you'll see that there is the red line. That it calls for when the, let me back up. Go back to the warranty deed before I say that. On the warranty deed, it calls for a plat of survey that was done by Minnie Payne in September of 2003, but that plat is not for this property. It's for the, I'm sorry?
Who closed this?
Mr. York.
That's interesting.
I did reach out to Mr. York, and he provided a plat, but it doesn't have the information that we need. It's more centered towards.
This is a reoccurring problem in Baldwin, so he's probably used to that. Unfortunately, I've had plat and survey issues with every property I've owned in this town.
So there is an option before the council. This is our first reading, and we can make changes to the ordinance as it's presented tonight. But we do have the option to require that they survey this property before the special use permit is authorized, make it a condition of the special use permit that it has to be done with a certain time period. I will say that surveyors are on back order right now. There are.
I was gonna ask, is it possible for us to get the survey, require them, to do it within 6 months? I think it's gonna be beneficial, well, I know it'll be beneficial for them, but it'll be beneficial in the future, and, we just did deal with that easement issue with the property next door. We've had issues with the old bank, so is this something that we can ask? Because I don't want to delay their project, because as the applicant stated when she came to the council meeting to talk about it, she was very distressed because they're having to live in adverse conditions, because they're having to wait. And unfortunately, the seller of that property did not fail to explain to them, what the process is. So I don't want to delay them.
Right. I agree.
Could we authorize or move forward in this process while they're pursuing it, make it a condition of the special use permit, and then require that the ordinance be brought forward to the council once the plat is completed to reauthorize it?
Yes, you can do that. And looking at the warranty deed on page 47 and 48 of your packets, we do have a deed book and page number for that. And so what I would recommend is having the red line section of the ordinance on page 52 that currently has the blanks. We can word the, well, what I would recommend is going ahead and just striking the red section for now. And then we can try to track down this plat in the deed records too and see if we can get anything from the Clerks Association about it. But I think if it comes to the next reading of the ordinance and we still don't have this plat, then we can rework the legal description to make it work. So that's what I would recommend going forward, sort of as is now, striking the red language, and then when we come for the second reading, try and clean this up.
Yeah, because the legal, correct me if I'm wrong, but the legal description is actually the controlling part of it, right?
Yes, and that's what makes it tricky, because the legal description is what references this survey that doesn't have a deed book and plat, right? So that's the really tricky thing about this from our perspective, is right now, the ordinance doesn't actually describe the piece of property that we're talking about.
Gotcha, so that's, that begs the question, should we require that? Because, we, tend to think of things in terms of right now and maybe not too terribly far in the future. I think Baldwin does a little bit better of a job of that. But, for example, if for some reason this property ends up being vacant again for 12 years, sometime in the future, whether that's 20 years from now or whenever, becomes vacant for a year, and then it's again non-conforming use, and then future council is going to have to go through this again, and there's still no plat. But if that's how we need to do it, then yeah.
Would this affect them from selling the property?
No, it's because if you're gonna put a mobile home on the property, under any circumstances, you've gotta, under our zoning ordinance, you've gotta apply for a special use permit. So there's nothing on there now, but if they wanted to put a mobile home on there, this doesn't change anything about the process that they would have had to go through to do that.
Okay.
So if we find a deed, or in the book, we find all the information in the plat book that we need, then we would do, a survey would be contingent on us finding that, and if we don't find that, then we would require them to do a survey, is that what you're saying?
You can, and that's probably, if we get all the way there without being able to find any records.
It just changed hands in October. The closing attorney would have found whatever they needed to during the title search before it closed in October.
And that's what I'm thinking is,
So whatever is supposed to be there is not there.
I would think Keith York would have this, but, Aaron's talked to him.
This is the same thing that happened to me with the property that I owned on Landrum Street, several years ago. I had a legal description that referenced a plat that didn't exist. But what did exist was from like I don't remember, the early 1900s. And so, again, this is a reoccurring problem. I've seen this many times. The problem is too with Baldwin is you have a lot of areas where that used to be Habersham that are now banks. Some areas that are now banks that used to be, you know what I mean? The line has moved over the years. So things get lost in the basements of courthouses when the line moved. Yeah, that's a problem. I'm not surprised.
So did you have adverse effects because you couldn't
I'd
find
have a
the
survey.
That is an adverse
Yeah,
situation.
before I
for
could sell it.
someone, yeah.
So I think that my recommendation would be to allow this to go forward with first reading, striking what Mr. Samuels has recommended we strike. While we investigate it a little bit further, hopefully we have a positive outcome at the second reading. But the worst case scenario at the second reading, if we cannot find it, we can require that a survey be completed as a special condition. It can be written into the ordinance requiring that this ordinance come back before council when the plat is completed, so that our records can show it forevermore that there is a plat, there's a plat book.
Yep, there's no questions. Yep.
So which red lines are we striking? Are we at 120, 121?
Mayor, I said strike something. Honestly, we can wait to make any amendments to this until the second reading, just so we make all the
Just keep it like
amendments.
this?
Keep it as it is for now, just that'll make the record a lot cleaner, I think.
So then the motion would be for it as presented,
Correct.
and any changes would come at the next reading. Are you okay with that? Alice, Martin, are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, to read, Jack, to read the bolded part into the record, read the red part as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Because because the red part on the bold portion actually does reference the appropriate deed book and page of the deed that was the deed of the current owner.
Right.
It just doesn't call out the plat book. There's a deed book and a plat book.
Yeah.
So the red is the deed book, what's not listed in there is the plat book and page number.
Yeah.
Okay, so, read all this first, right, before we call for the motion. All right, an ordinance number 2025-01159Z. An ordinance amending the zoning map of the city of Baldwin, Georgia, by granting a special use permit to allow a Class A double-wide manufactured home to all that tract or tracts or parcel or parcels of land owned by Montserrat Mora and Roberto Zavala, and being tract 1 within Habersham County, Georgia, and being more particularly described on a November 11th, 2024 warranty deed filed in deed book 01382, page 1 and 2 of the Habersham County deed records, which is attached hereto, and which is incorporated by reference into this ordinance and currently zoned as single-family residential R2 with conditions, repealing conflicting ordinances to provide for severability, to provide for an effective date, and for other purposes. Can I have a motion to approve the first reading of the Mora Zavala Special Use Permit number 2025-1159Z as presented?
So moved.
I have a motion from Councilwoman Venter. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Councilman Keith. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Council, for thinking through that with me, with us. There being no executive session this evening, we'll move on to announcements. Due to unforeseen delays, 2024 property tax information was released later than typically expected, and the bills have been now sent via postal mail. As it is the city's practice to extend the due date in the event of billing delays, the new due date for 2024 property taxes is February 28th, 2025. For any questions, please call City Hall or email cityclerk@cityofbaldwin.org. Item 2, city offices will be closed Monday, January 20th, in observance of Martin Luther King Day. Are there any announcements from council? I would just, sir, yes, sir.
Just want to talk again about Public Works. I ran into Scott and a couple of the crew today doing their work with the plows, and I just cannot say how much I appreciate the effort that went into preparing the city and maintaining the city during this winter storm. So shout out to Public Works.
Thank you, that was gonna be mine as well. Were there any situations, big situations in the city?
They were hard work all weekend. We only had one major water leak during the storm, which we are thankful for. They took care of it pretty quickly. They were fed well over the weekend. They were tired.
How many hours did they work straight?
Oh, I don't remember that. I know that we had split them up. Scott had sent them home, like he half the crew, and sent them home just in case so that everyone was rested.
Yeah, I saw them Thursday night and they were there, they were gearing up. He said he had 10 folks who were going to work, so.
We had, DOT reached out to us twice, I believe, to, get us to help them clear, some of the roads. So we went down, there was a couple of wrecks that happened on 441 going towards Cornelia, and we went down and scraped the road for them. And then I think on Airport Road, we did some scraping for them as well.
Well, I'm glad we came to the county's rescue, our DOT rescue.
County.
That's,
Mayor, I did receive a message from someone on Facebook that lives over at the Duncan Bridge, excuse me, Duncan Bridge and Airport area. She reached out to me and said that she just wanted to let us know that our guys were doing a great job of working the roads and that she appreciated it. I did share that with some of the council members, but I wanted to go ahead and take the opportunity that you offered to make sure that the rest of the world knows that, you know, so we complain about our property taxes, everybody does, none of us like it, but to be honest, the reason why I'm not able to be there tonight is because we had to be at our place in Raven with our dogs, and, I can't get out of my driveway, and that's because I do not live on a city-maintained road. And so, I don't know when I'll be able to get my car out of this driveway. So, I'd be willing to pay probably a good $100 right now for somebody to be able to plow my driveway or de-ice it, and, I just, that's one of the benefits that we have living in a city with proximal, substantial services, and it's good to see that other residents recognize that, and we appreciate that compliment.
Alice, this will warm your heart too. I went over to the new Public Works building Thursday night, and I talked to the guys before the snowstorm. There was food on the counter, there was warm water for them to shower, there were places for them to rest their weary bodies, and having the new building, I think, to me, made a difference to me, to see that our folks were protected and taken care of so they could do the work of the city and take care of our residents in the city. So I was just looking at that building, thinking how far we had come. And we had talked about having that first, you were there at the opening, you guys were there at the opening, having the first big disaster and knowing that that building was doing exactly what it was designed to do, that the guys could rest, they could shower, they could eat. Remember, couldn't have food in the old Public Works building. I mean, they were able to.
They had to fight their ass for it.
Yeah, I know. So to see the new building, to see the chairs and their blankets with their names on them, and know that they were okay. I left Thursday night knowing that they were going to be able to do their job for the residents. My heart was warmed by that. So
for sure, they did definitely. So I've rode along with them during the snowstorms and the snowplows, and they're out there with their cold hands dumping bags of salt and grit into the hopper, and so knowing it was very warming and satisfying to my heart too, knowing that they had somewhere to warm up and to clean up with warm water and rest before they got back out there and continue to make sure that the roads were safe for our residents to travel. Yeah, that's amazing. Good job, everybody.
And again, our job is to make sure our guys go home safe to their families too, and I think we've done that. It was a long slog to get that building built, and it was this moment for me where I was so happy to see the fruits of our labor, from those years building that building. So and with the Hurricane Helene, they had a good safe place to be. And the station up for helping that. That's the first responder thing that we talked about. So, yeah. Okay, I'm off my soapbox.
Also, shout out to
Lauren's probably rolling his
water
eyes.
treatment and wastewater.
Yes.
Continuing to run the plant.
Yeah. We didn't lose our water. We were still able to flush our toilets. We're all at home, right? And to be able to turn on the tap and have our water and have sewer. So these are folks that work 24-hour shifts and don't get enough kudos from the public. So again, we thank our water and our wastewater treatment folks always. Again, first responders, they are there, and that's the invisible work of the city, right? I mean, people don't see these folks who are tucked away and working 24 hours. All right, we are competing right now with the big truck, so I am going to, it was cute, but loud. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Sorry, Martin, Eric beat you to it. Can I have a second? I have a second from Councilman Venter. All those in favor? Any opposed, Alice? That's right, okay. Motion carries unanimously, we're adjourned. Thank you, Council.